welcome to Freestyle Talks. My name is Carlos Osvaldo from Mozambique, and welcome to one more show here at Freestyle Talks. So this time is going to be our second show in English after the one we did with Hotep Jesus from United States. Um, so it's always challenging, an extra challenge to do in English because, as you might know, Portuguese is my first language. But this whole program is an experience and a challenge. So I'm ready to do it again. And thank you for the comments and encouragement. So we'll keep pushing ourselves to step out of the comfort zone and grow up and evolve and be better every day, every time. I'm I have to remind everybody that the the goals of this platform are to impact people in a positive way, to inspire them to be the best version of themselves. So we talk to guests I personally admire and I personally feel are inspirational and worthy of sharing with you. So today I will be calling and speaking with Stephen Reed. He's already online. I consider Stephen one of my mentors, so it's always a pleasure talking to him and learning from him and hearing his experiences and his vision. And during these times of COVID, these crazy worlds and crazy new times, I think especially for people who are in business and especially small businesses are suffering and struggling a lot, and entrepreneurs in general. So I always feel it's good to step back and to have a perspective and some inspiration. And I think Stephen can help us to think about things in a different way. So I will call him in. And as you know, we have a chat available. So feel free to step in, to send us your comments, and you can also be a part of our conversation. So I will um, I will welcome Stephen. Welcome here. How
Thanks,
are you?
Carlo. And good, I'm well. Do I say bon dia? Is it bon dia?
Bon dia. That's it. That's
Bon
perfect.
dia. Great. Good, I'm
But
good.
actually, bon dia is when it's good morning. It's when it's
Ah,
morning. So it's boa noite in the evening.
boa
Boa
noite.
noite. Yes,
There we
that's it.
go. Great.
So we started in a good way. Uh, Learning some Portuguese already.
Thank you.
Stephen, first, let me thank you for making your time to be here and for accepting my invitation. It's really special, and you know that I told you that a lot of times, but I want to tell you this publicly and on air. It's really a privilege to have you here, and I really want to thank you for that. Okay.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. And obviously, having an opportunity to chat with you is always great. And I appreciate the opportunity of being a guest on your platform.
Thank you. So this adventure called Freestyle Talks started by late May. So we are 1.5 months. So we've been talking to people from all over the world. We've been having guests from Portugal, Mozambique, Angola, South Africa now, Brazil, United States. Next week, Namibia. So it's really a global vision and platform, and we want to bring the best brains I know, and I want to learn and hear from. So welcome on board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I've been doing, Stephen, in these crazy times of COVID.
Yeah, so it's a question that I guess everybody gets asked all the time, and I'm in a good space. I'm in a good space, and it's hard. It's hard for everybody. It's hard for me. It's hard for my family. Um, I'm very fortunate that I have access to a lot of very innovative people. So I see a lot of opportunity around the world coming out of out of COVID, and a lot of people moving forward. I'll use you as an example. Here you are, got your own platform, doing your thing. It's amazing. So that keeps me really upbeat. The reality, obviously, as well, is just so many businesses, small businesses, larger businesses that have just been decimated. They've been ruined. They've closed. People losing their jobs, people dying, and also seeing a profound lack of leadership in a lot of countries. Yeah, so good and bad, and
Mhm.
obviously a lot of challenge, a lot of challenge.
And you are in Joburg,
I'm in
living in Joburg.
Johannesburg. Yeah,
Okay,
I
Johannesburg.
live and work in Johannesburg, South Africa. Prior to COVID-19, I spent a lot of time in Africa, and I was launching a new initiative in Ghana in May, which obviously didn't happen. I'm part of a really large television show in Nigeria that's also been put on hold. So it's the fifth year that the show is on. I think it might be, it's definitely Africa's largest entrepreneuriality show, and being our fifth year, what the producers are doing is just putting together highlights from the last 4 years. Because obviously it's going to be a challenge to film. We would generally film this month.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And our numbers of COVID in South Africa right now, the evolution of the pandemic.
Yeah. So I spoke about leadership earlier. I believe our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was fantastic at the beginning, decisive. We had an incredibly strict lockdown. I think we were one of only two countries in the world where they banned tobacco. You weren't allowed to smoke. You weren't allowed to drink. They banned alcohol, and everybody was locked away in their houses. And that's gradually been opening, and the lockdown worked. And just in case, because I see it sometimes, people don't actually understand what lockdown's about. And all that lockdown is for a country to prepare for the pandemic that's coming. And we did well, and now the pandemic's here. And we are on roughly about 250,000 cases, and climbing quickly. Where I live, it's one of the hotspots now. Johannesburg, in a province called Gauteng, the whole province is a hotspot, and we've had about 1.1 million recoveries, which is fantastic, and less than 4,000 deaths so far,
Okay,
and massive economic damage, obviously.
I can imagine. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
and the worst part is what's about to come economically, right? So even after the pandemic stage is over, then it's the economic devastation and recovery, right?
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's unfortunately a lot to come, and for me, my country, South Africa, there's been a lot of corruption, government level, and that we have a term for it, state capture. Yeah. Anyway, so our economy was in a really awful state. We were already in a recession, and then there was COVID. So a fantastic saying that I heard the other day. Unfortunately, I can't remember who said it. It's not mine. I wish it was mine. Just that COVID hasn't killed businesses. The bad economic policies, corruption, etc., in South Africa has killed the businesses, and COVID-19 is just the coffin that they're being buried in.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's a great quote.
yeah. I wish I could credit the person who said it. I can't remember.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
credit online, so maybe another person has heard about it or knows who
yeah.
it was. So great
Be
line.
great.
So here in Mozambique, Stephen, our case is quite different. So we are in a state of emergency since the end of March. So it's before the lockdown. So we never had actually a lockdown in Mozambique. We just crossed 1,000 positive cases, I think last week, and we only have about I think 9 deaths by now. But the situation here in Mozambique is that uh, we don't have enough testing. So
Sure.
just to give you an example, we have a population of 28 million, and I think that since March we only tested uh, maybe 20,000 people. So we don't
Wow.
have tests. Yeah, so it's kind of a blind fight and combat against COVID-19. But so we have low numbers if we compare with the countries in the region, but these numbers have been growing. Yeah, but it's kind of a deceiving statistics
Sure.
this side.
And how does that affect you and the people in your country, in your city? How is COVID-19 taken as being serious, considering your low numbers?
Yeah, I think we had different stages. So in the beginning, there was more of a panic reaction
Mm,
in March, April. So people really took it serious in the first state of emergency. So people locked down and people were staying home. Schools are closed and borders are closed. So people took it seriously. And then by that time, we were seeing some hard news from Europe, Brazil, United States, and even in South Africa. So we saw a lot of devastation happening around the world. So we braced ourselves to the worst. But
yeah.
as it went by, so I would say from May, we here in Mozambique started to relax. I think it was a little bit of being tired of being
Yeah.
expecting and hearing these news from other countries, and we kind of lived it, the worst part of COVID and the most fearful part before it was actually here. So when it started to grow here in May and June and now in July, we are now more relaxed and people are okay. So it's not that serious here now.
Mm,
Uh, and and the president last week he spoke about reopening schools this month, I think in the end of this month or in August. So I think people are already going out much more, working much more. So, but I'm home since March. I'm working from home, basically. I told my boss in the company I work that I feel comfortable working from home. I don't feel comfortable in public spaces. So I'm staying home and I'm
yeah.
working from home and protecting my family. So
Yeah.
that's us.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be part of the new reality. I'm quite fortunate from the remote working side. So I've worked remotely and virtually since 2003.
Hmm. Wow.
So
So you started early, yeah.
yeah, I mean, the only thing that really changed for me, honestly, so this is being very honest, was I got more time available because I couldn't make an excuse that I had to go to a coffee shop or go to the office or something and have that commuting time. Suddenly, that commuting time is work time.
Hmm.
So I just got more hours out of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And the traveling part, of course, right? So you were always from one country to other, and that also
Yeah.
changed.
Well, I try not to think about that because that's very depressing. So other
Yeah.
than that, it's a large, huge part of my work. Just not being able to connect with different cultures, go to different countries, etc. All my friends in those other countries, it's different experiencing the challenges of South Africa and connecting with my South African friends. But for instance, in Nigeria, I've got friends in Nigeria and I'm not there. So I don't understand their situation as well as I feel I must probably want to when we're sharing stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's shift from COVID. I think it was good just
Great idea.
just to get an impression of what's happening, and now you are doing, and you and your family are okay. So I'm happy to
Sure.
hear that. I want to share with people how we met, Stephen, and I want to give you my perspective on that encounter we had. So it was in November last year, late November last year in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
We were attending the Southern Africa Startup Awards grand finale. So it's a competition to find the best startups in SADC region, and then to find winners who will then represent the Southern Africa Startup Awards in the Global Startup Awards
Great.
competition. Uh, so I went there um, as a represent. I had actually two hats. So I was going to represent MOVA, is where I'm working, an NGO works on female economic empowerment. So we had won an award in Mozambique, and we were in the competition in the regional level. But I am also an ambassador of the competition here in Mozambique. And I was also a jury of the regional competition. So I was very excited to be there. It was, I think, 2 days, right, of an incredible event. And you were one of the panelists in the in the events, in the workshops, in the discussions. Uh, I never I'd never heard about you before the event, and I was really impressed to hear you speaking. And and then I think in one of the breaks, I approached you
Yeah.
to introduce myself and to be in touch with you, and to tell you I would like to pick your brain whenever it's possible, and to share ideas, and to you know to be have you available to contact and to reach out. And here we are, 6 months later, or 7 months later, right?
Yeah. Here we are. Here
Yeah.
we are. And I have it's
So yeah.
I had different roles just from my side at the event. So the hat I wore that everybody saw was I sat on a couple of the panels and I gave out an award or whatever. But the founder, McKevin Ayaba, is a mentee of mine.
Mm,
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know.
yeah, so I mean, he's just done such great stuff, getting those awards up and running in Southern Africa. It's fantastic.
I invited him already to be a guest in one of our next shows, and he said yes. So
Uh, your
I'll keep you
your
I'll keep you posted.
your your audience is going to love him. He's a dynamic man.
Yeah, he's vibrant. He's very
Yeah,
intelligent. Yeah, and
yeah,
he's full of energy and
yeah,
vision. Yeah.
yeah. And
So
that's part of why I love being a mentor, is because you say, "Oh, can I pick your brains? Will you be available to talk to me?" In a healthy mentoring relationship, the mentor, being me, gets as much out of the relationship as the mentee. So I'm learning from you in all our conversations. And you have your finger on the pulse in certain industries, countries, etc. And you've got your brilliance that I'm able to tap into as well.
that's good.
Mm.
It's a give and take, right? It's a two
Yeah,
ways
yeah.
relationship. Uh, so tell me, Stephen, about this mentor thing. You had mentors yourself who helped you become who you are, and who are they?
So I still have mentors.
Mm.
I hope, when I die, when I'm 185 years old, there'll be a mentor holding my hand, as I pass from this life. So I believe we should have mentors forever. You don't need to have a mentor. You can have several. and mentors last for a period of time in your life. So I've had many, and obviously in my family for different reasons. My grandfather was a very powerful mentor in my early life. My mom, for different reasons, teaching me about family and unconditional love. My father was an alcoholic, and I didn't have a good relationship with him at all. I didn't speak to him much. So I looked for other male role models often. And I had some really good business role models along the way. Right now, I'm very fortunate as well. I was a board member of the International Coach Federation, South Africa. So the ICF, International Coach Federation, is the largest credentialing body of coaches in the world. So I have one or two top coaches as mentors, not because we're in a coaching relationship, because we become friends and I admire them. So I have some wonderful, wonderful people, but then I also have younger people mentoring me.
Mm.
And I know that sounds strange, but as I get older, I lose touch with a certain part of the population, and I can fake it and pretend that I'm young and I'm cool and that, and I'm not. I'm older and cool. so, I'll give you an example. I've got a young man, Lesejo Malotsi, who was a student of mine at one of my entrepreneur schools in South Africa. And he has a podcast called Hustle Central, and we mentor each other. Literally, we mentor each other. I think that's a very powerful relationship for me. Sumi Francis, Africa's Young Entrepreneurs. He's the founder. He's a mentee of mine, and I consider him a mentor of mine as well. So there's lots of people, and I also find in mentorship, and I don't know, I'd love to get your opinion on this as well, Carlos, is at a specific moment in time on a specific subject, somebody is a mentor, and then they're gone, and I may never speak to them again, but there's a pearl of wisdom or an insight that I really needed at the time. Does that ring true for you?
Yes, I think it makes all sense. So it depends on where you are and where you are going. And sometimes you just need a person to help you to give one step, and then you can take it from there. And it's not about using people, it's about giving people a role in a certain period of your life, in a chapter of your life. So I
Sure.
think some mentors are really for an entire life, and some mentors are for moments of your life. So I
Yeah.
totally understand that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I relate
So
with that.
my lifetime mentors are most of them come out of an organization called the Mankind Project. So again, it's another organization. They do men's peer-to-peer learning and personal development, and it's about a 35-year-old organization, global, just for men. And I ran that. I was the national director in South Africa, and I sat on the international board. And some of those men, I've built up relationships with them that I would check in with those men for advice on things. They know more about me than my family, you know.
Mm.
And I actually sit in a men's circle. So there's a group of men. There's about 10 of us, and we've been meeting every 2 weeks for the last 10 years. So in that group are men who have sold their companies for millions, really successful. There's a CEO of also a multi-billion company. There's a guy who does some sort of spiritual work, and an unemployed man. There's all different men in that group, but I get a huge insight from them because I have ultimate trust. And I think that's a really important part of the relationship, is that I trust these men that what we share is confidential, that they're objective. They don't judge me on decisions I've made, my behavior, etc. So that's really important mentoring for me.
And they are not afraid also of telling us, "Hey, you are messing up and this is wrong and this is bullshit," right?
That they do, yeah, and I love them for that. That
Yeah.
it's absolute honesty, and not because it's non-judgmental. It's not in a negative or harsh way. I might take it harshly, but it's not given in a harsh way.
Hmm.
That's great. So,
And one
so
thing, yeah, tell me, Steven.
now
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you. So who do you consider mentors? So who are your mentors you'd want to share?
So I always had the difficulty in finding mentors in life. I'm starting to find mentors lately, but I want to share this with you. I grew up and I was always so. My first mentor, I think, is are my friends from the teenage age. I have a couple of friends who we remain really good friends.
Mm.
So these are my mentors from 20 years or 30 years, who always been there by my side, who are the first ones to hear about my ideas, my projects, my visions. So uh, I have a couple of friends who are like that at that level. And then as I started to do my entrepreneurship and my business career and my books, so uh, at a professional level, I always found it difficult to find mentors in the areas I work at, and I'll tell you why. So I have I am a writer. I have 4 books published here in Mozambique. And when I look around writers here in Mozambique, or even in Portugal, where I lived before, I don't relate with writers at a personal level. I don't feel like them. They seem like two lunatic people. Sometimes, it's very people who are only living in the books and writing novels, and I'm doing business in the other side. So I'm not just someone who is writing all the time. So we don't have that type of same personality of or connection at that level. And then I also work at marketing. Uh, so at Mova, I manage the communications of the organization. And when I look around people who are often working in marketing, I found people who are really bragging themselves and selling themselves and look at my nice suit and my nice watch, and people who are full of style and show off, and that's not me at all. And then as I was working in, I'm also a founder of small companies. I'm an entrepreneur, as you know, and
Yeah.
those people I know here around me who are doing that are a lot of snobbish and, oh, look at me, I'm a big head, I'm a big shot, and I'm not like that. So that event in Johannesburg was actually very interesting for me. It was a very powerful experience I felt and I lived, because for the first time in a long time, I felt a space. I found a space where I saw people like me. Around that room, I saw a lot of people. I said, "Wow, I'm not crazy." So there are people who are like me here. So that's why I went after you to be in touch with you and to connect with you. I went after Danny Tong as well. So Al Kiraki, there was another guy very interesting who was there. So these are the new mentors I'm trying to hook up and to connect with at this stage of my life and career to help me take myself to the next level.
Fantastic. And both those men are fantastic men. So Danny, obviously, I sat on the panel with him and just really interesting. And Al is, I think he was one of the most interesting people at the Startup Awards. I found him fascinating.
He is indeed. So yeah, uh, as we were talking about the old and young ages, I was starting to wonder how was Stephen Reed by 15 or 18? How were you back
So,
then?
so it's funny because people, when they look at me and they meet me and I'm soft spoken and what have you, I was a juvenile delinquent, an
Wow.
absolute juvenile delinquent. I was kicked out of schools and yeah, really looking for boundaries. Let's put
Mm,
it that way. I was looking for boundaries and wasn't able to find them until I completed my military training. The military definitely knows how to put boundaries down that are
mhm,
solid. So at 15, at 18, I was just really silly and doing a lot of silly things. Um, and I was already an entrepreneur though. So that side's kind of been around forever. Back in those days, business obviously was very, very different to now. And when I was 15, um, they had fax machines. So for your audience who doesn't know what a fax machine is, they can go and look it up on Google. And I would get catalogs from the local libraries, and they had all these catalogs of suppliers out of the Far East, Japan, and so on, more than China. Um, and I would send them faxes on a letterhead saying that I'm a buyer's representative in South Africa, and if they're looking to bring their products here, they can use my services. And what I need from them is one or two samples and price lists and so on. So that's the way I would get really cool stuff because
mm,
these companies would then send me the cool things that I'd found in the catalogs that I wanted as samples because they're for free and then I could sell them or keep them. That was wonderful. And obviously at 15, I wasn't anybody's representative at all.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. And I was buying and selling stuff at school and being live on it. I'm not going to tell you the things I was selling at school, but
Please don't.
yeah, no, I'm not going to. So that I was doing up until I was 18. And yeah, I started my first business straight out of school, and that was marketing costume jewelry of all things. I met a woman who made jewelry that I thought was so uniquely African, and I got the rights to do the marketing for export,
Mm,
and that was okay. I won some international marketing awards. I didn't sell any jewelry, but I got a little statue and certificates and
mm,
stuff from Madrid. I think it was one. I was meant to go to Spain to collect something and all that nonsense, but I didn't make any money. And then I went to the
mm.
army, and came out with a lot more discipline. And then started businesses, and so be it.
And which was your first big business or a successful business?
So my first successful business, I studied a little bit of importing and exporting um, back then. And I worked I started a consulting business to help small businesses who didn't know the paperwork. In those days, there was a lot of incentives for South African companies who wanted to export. And I worked for a company who was exporting to Zimbabwe. Um, and I thought that I was doing a good job. And I realized as I was working for them that they were actually smugglers. So it was
Mm,
just totally illegal what they were doing. And I was helping them run an illegal business. And eventually they closed down. But I'd learned a whole lot about the catering industry. So supplying all different catering equipment and so on. There was a hotel there opened in the Cresta Lodge Hotel opened in Harare. We kitted out the whole hotel as an example. So I learned a whole lot. That business closed, and I opened a business selling selling catering equipment and plates and knives, forks, all of that in South Africa. And for people who are starting businesses and say they need money, I get it. But just to share a story, how I started that particular business, where more than you need money, you need customers. That's like, if you've got customers, like, the money will come. So I went to a friend, well, not even a friend, an acquaintance who owned a shop selling food. And I said, do you know anybody who wants to buy plates and stuff like that? So he said, oh, my wife owns a restaurant. So he phoned her. I went to see her. She said, what do you do? I said, I supply everything in your restaurant except for the food. So she said, great, I want fish plates. So I didn't know what a fish plate looked like, And so I said to her, well, show me your fish plate so that I know I'm quoting you on the right thing. So she showed it to me so then I could see what it looked like. And then she said, so how much? So I said, you show me an invoice, and whatever that invoice says, I'll be 10% cheaper, guaranteed. So then I could see the price. So she gave that to me, and I went out, and I went and I bought, it was a very small order, so I could afford to buy, that it was 24 plates. And I went to all the wholesalers, drove around until I found the cheapest one. And then I bought 24 loose plates, and I sat there with my car key and I scraped off the prices. And then I sat with a typewriter and computer paper in my car, and I typed up a computer invoice that looked like I owned a computer. And I then carried these fish plates into the shopping center. And of course, they're heavy, 24, and I was going to drop them. So in the middle of the shopping center, I took these plates and I put them inside a rubbish bin because it's soft. It was all the rubbish. And those plates had to sit there while I got grip back in my hands. And I took them into her restaurant. She paid me. So then I went to the restaurant next to her and I said, oh, that restaurant deals with me. They think you should deal with me too. And that business grew until that particular type of crockery, the fish plate, the company that made that, we were in the top 10 companies buying from them in South Africa. We supplied most of the restaurants and hotels and that, not exclusively, but in Johannesburg and Pretoria, I had 3 branches in South Africa, and we were exporting from Kenya down, as well as to Mauritius, Seychelles, and to South America. Yeah, so I was privileged enough to.
And that company is
so that company closed. So remember, I'm one of the older guys. So that company closed at the end of 1999. So that company ran for about 8 years. I was very young and arrogant, and I became successful very quickly. And I made some really poor choices at the end based on my arrogance. So that's all. So I ended up closing that business. We went to court and we went through a liquidation process, and the business closed totally. I lost everything in that business. But by the time that business closed, so we had the 3 branches. I had 2 other businesses. We had agencies for very specific products, also in the hospitality industry. I had a huge nightclub, which was great, about 1,500 square meter nightclub.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. That was really fun. And a video shop. I don't even know why, the video shop. And a printing company. Yeah, and a printing company.
So there's always a debate around
Yeah.
specialization or diversification in business. And from your story, I can see you do a lot of business in different areas, right?
Yeah. So my specialization is leadership and startup. Yeah. So if somebody says, should I diversify? It's like, no, specialize. Specialists make all the money. Generalists don't make the money. But specializing doesn't mean that you're a specialist like that. So I'm a specialist like that. So you can't see my hand, but it's running the length, like all the way like this. And then I
Yeah.
take this, and for a specific business, I become a specialist like that. I take all of this knowledge and I turn it that way. And you'll find in corporate, leaders are able to move across industries because leadership is leadership. Yeah?
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm I'm actually struggling with that because I always have a tendency to do to to diversify. I do things from advertisements to restaurants to broadcasting now. So I have different types of investments in different areas. I also have now a project in the movie industry. It's called Shortcuts. It's a representation of a Shortcuts network, and that's a global movement of short movies. So I'm also in that. I also did events in stand-up comedy. Uh, so I have many hats in different areas. But I see sometimes some teachers online and some business gurus who are saying you should specialize. In my case, uh, I totally agree with what she said. I couldn't be doing only one thing all the time, the same thing all the time. That's not in my nature. So I think it's always very important to understand who you are and what makes you tick and what makes you move, and be real to who you are and and your nature. And my nature is to really be jumping around, moving in different areas, testing different fields. But I'm doing actually the same thing in all these areas. And that is leading and communicating, and I'm very good with people, and uh, I'm actually doing what you said. It's doing the my specialty in different areas, in different industries.
Yeah. So I'm so because I've been doing it for a long time. I'm so acutely aware of what I'm not good at.
Mm,
So rather than saying I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at. So I love startup and I love the energy and the challenge. Maybe I'm bootstrapping a business or whatever it is. That bit I love. So I have business management software that's used by incubators for as a business management tool for small businesses. And when I launched that business, I chose my CEO before I launched, and I mentor him for when we hit a certain size because that's not my domain anymore. That's his to take over
mhm,
from me because that
yeah.
goes outside of my area of expertise, and I need a more corporate mindset, which is not my mindset.
Mhm.
So,
But,
and I
yeah.
just want to quickly touch back onto the specialization and diversification, and to your audience, to have a really honest look at themselves. I find startups, founders, entrepreneurs who are when they start up are doing more than one thing, is basically because one they need a plan B, so
Mhm.
either there's not enough income out of plan A, or they don't trust it enough. Somebody once said to me, "Do you have a plan B?" And I said, "Of course I have a plan B." They said, "You don't actually believe in plan A. Because
Mhm.
if you believed in plan A, you wouldn't need and you wouldn't bother with a plan B." Don't say I agree with that. I'm just sharing what someone said. So, so people do more than one thing at the beginning. And if they were to focus on one business and put all their time, energy, effort, all their thinking into that business, they may not see the results right now, but at some stage, if it's the right business, it will explode. It will absolutely explode. But because as startups, and I say we don't have enough income in the beginning, or faith or market or whatever it is, but we have time. So we split it up amongst stuff. That I disagree with. Once
Mhm.
you've got an income and you've got a solid business, then yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Mm, I get that. I also I actually heard that from one of these teachers. He was telling that in the beginning, specialize and be good at that and be make money and establish that business, and then go and diversify. Yeah.
Yeah. And if that business doesn't work, close it.
Mm,
Yeah. So we talk about passion. You've got to be passionate to succeed and so on. For me, part of passion is discipline.
mm,
So because I'm passionate, I'm prepared to follow certain daily disciplines, which I might not want to do, but I know if I follow the disciplines, I'm going to get success. And passion would be I want to provide engaging freestyle conversations for my audience. That's the passion. So not the actual operations, not the headphones you're wearing, whatever keyboard you've got in front of me. That solution. So that solution isn't being taken up by the market. Close.
mhm,
Find something else to do or pivot in that business. But
mhm,
you've got to try and look objectively at your business. That's where the mentors come in to give you an objective opinion on your decision making, even though you
mhm.
make your own decisions, obviously.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. And also, looking back at, I asked you before about the successes you had. I want to ask you about failures as well.
Mm.
So you told me that selling that business and the end of the that business was a failure. And can you share other failures you may
Tons,
have?
tons. I'm an absolute product of my failure. I'm very proud of them as gazillions. Gazillions being millions and millions.
Yeah.
I've started businesses, I put money into them and they failed. I've spent tons of time and I haven't even got to the point of putting in money and realized that they failed. And I've had other businesses succeed. I'll give you an example of what's so here's a nice one. Here's a nice failure. So that nightclub. So massive nightclub. My partner was a man, Michael Dean, who choreographed a male review show. So they were like male strippers, basically called the Chippendales. Very famous in their day. They traveled all over the world, doing their thing. And he was the choreographer. And he got hold of me. I don't even know how. And we decided to go into business together. And we opened this massive nightclub and it was hugely successful. And then there was an altercation with some of the security staff, and then we were robbed, but an inside job. So 8 guys came in with AK-47s and held the management up and took a whole lot of money. But my American partners upped and left. They left the next day. Literally got on a plane and went home to America. Um, so I was left with a business that I couldn't run. I had other businesses I was running, so I had to close that. So that was a fail in the end. I set up a business to relocate professionals to Dubai from all over the world. And I was in Dubai for 2 years. That second year was the massive 2008
Mm,
financial crisis. So we closed that business before we could get closed down. We would never have succeeded. So from moving all my kind of effort into Dubai, come home, felt the world would end, and I ended up working in informal settlements. I'm not sure what you call them in Mozambique, slums. And I started a butchery with a partner because I figured the banking system's going to disappear. We're just going to be bartering and using cash, and everybody's going to be at the base of the pyramid. There's no pyramid left because what happened in Dubai in that time was just insane. And we were so successful. I ran that shop, and it was so successful that my partner then changed the strategy and said he's not going to work with me to open more shops. I must just stay in that one shop as a manager. And like that, it doesn't work that way. So I had to exit that business. And then I started a supermarket, and we ran supermarkets. And that was what got me into working with entrepreneurs, was having these businesses at the base of the pyramid and seeing this incredible talent that didn't have access to the opportunities, obviously somebody like I have had, and so on. And that was, what, 15 years ago now, roughly. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
and I mean, the supermarket set up, the point was to train local people. The supermarkets were staffed by local people from that informal settlement. Management, I trained up from those people. And then the top management became the owners. And I raised funding to buy myself out of the business. Then I opened another supermarket, and we create our own chain. And I did that. The first manager that I did that for, wonderful man, David Zwane. We got his funding through on a Friday. He passed away on the following Tuesday.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, terribly, terribly, just heartbreaking, and leaves behind a family. But from a business perspective, so then I had to start all over again and do the whole process again with another set of guys. I did that, got them funding. We did that again. And then the funding agency that had all my business plans and had put my funding in place, they did whatever wrong. I can't even remember what they did wrong. And the government withdrew their funding. So all those business sites that had lined up, we had to stop.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, like I can rattle off a million of these things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But actually, I find it interesting when you mentioned the 2008 crisis,
Mm.
because we are living a crisis now, and many people are also being hit by this situation of COVID, especially small businesses. And I can guess many small businesses are asking you for advice on
Yeah.
how can we deal with this, how to survive, how to navigate through COVID-19. What can you tell to small business owners who are struggling at this time? Is it better to suck it up and fight through? Is it better to maybe explore other areas and start stepping into new businesses, or adapting their businesses into a digital world? Uh, What are some of the general advices you can share with us here?
Sure. So step number one, cut every single cost that you possibly can. Don't have an ego. Just get rid of it. And unfortunately, that might include your staff. And I feel desperately, desperately sorry for those staff. But you've asked me a question about an entrepreneur and his business or her
Mhm.
business. So unfortunately, staff then would be deemed, if they're not necessary, they need to go. So just cut every single cost you can. Digital's here to stay. That is the new reality. So digital was coming, it's here. So what COVID's done is said 2024 is 2020. So whatever you thought or didn't think or watched in movies about science fiction, that's just arrived on your doorstep today. Are you ready? And if you're not, get ready, because we're at 2024 and moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're going to stop here. Now it's going to speed up. Everything's
Mm.
going to speed up now, all the artificial intelligence and so on. So get stuck in, learn. There's so much free information and courses and so on from credible sources. Get in, get that done. And then how do you generate an income? That's the big question. And for me, I'm in lockdown, and for a lot of people around the world, they can't commute and travel, there's social distancing and so on. There is already an existing infrastructure. Collaborate. How do you use what's already there? So People, I'll just use food security as an example. With food security, all the shops are shut, etc. And then government says, oh my goodness, we need to feed people. So then they roll out their own supply chain and they're delivering food. But there's all these small shops that are in those areas anyway who were getting stock from a wholesaler, etc. So why can't you use the existing system that's in place? So I'm saying to entrepreneurs and small business owners, have a look what's in your space and what's needed. So I have a friend who manufactures sauces. All the restaurants closed in South Africa, all of them. They were all closed, all the hotels, etc. They're slowly opening. You're only allowed to put 50% of the people into them than before, and so on. So his business is basically closed. But what he's done is he's worked now with other people, a milling company and a distributor to small shops in informal settlements, and he's making a soup mix, a very inexpensive soup mix, using all his big equipment in his factory. And they're now distributing out into these areas. So his expertise is manufacturing a food product. Maybe we talk about specializing. He's specializing. He's still doing what he did. The product's
but in
changed.
a different way. Yeah.
That's it. So that's what I would advise everybody is just have a look. One of my mentees in Nigeria, he sells honey. He wanted to change a whole lot of stuff. COVID hit, and I'm like, no, like just reserve your money, just stick it out, see what's going on. And what happened? His business exploded because one of their senators, I think it was, got sick. And then when he got better, he said, I had honey. Honey's what saved me. His business exploded because everybody now wants to buy honey. So it's just what's needed and tap into that. It's not about you. It's about the need out there. What is the customer base asking for? And then work with people to be able to supply into that need.
Mhm. And do you think anybody can be an entrepreneur or a business owner, or do you think there are some type of people who are born to do it, or who are more uh, prominent to do that kind of life, or do you think anybody can become entrepreneur or business owners?
So because I've seen people in desperate situations surviving, I'm going to say everybody can be an entrepreneur. I'm guessing the gist of your question is above survivalist business. And again, I think anybody can do it. So if I was to say to you, are you a salesperson? You said, no, I'm not a salesperson. Then my answer is, then you're not an entrepreneur. Because if you're not a salesperson, you're not an entrepreneur because every day you've got to sell your business, whether it's to your staff, your customers, the bank, the funder, your suppliers. Doesn't matter. You're always selling your business. Always, always, always. And that's part of your passion is just explaining if it's a hobby, you might be driving your partner out of their mind, your husband, wife, or whatever, because you're just talking about carpentry all the time or soccer, whatever. That's passion. But you're selling the soccer or you're selling the carpentry. So as long as you realize that basically it's all about sales, anybody can, because if you're highly technical, get partners. If you're not technical and you need technical, get a partner. So when we work together, when we collaborate with other businesses, with all the free information available on the internet now and access to the digital tools, everybody can at least try without it being a huge cost.
Mhm. That's interesting. Uh, I have a somewhat different opinion on that.
Sure.
That's from my experience here. I've been seeing a lot of people who want to start businesses, and who have money, who have ideas, but don't have the drive to do it and the personality to suck it up and to go through the stages of uh, a startup, of setting up a small company, of starting a business. Actually, some people are actually good managing, but not starting their own. So that's where I see a difference between entrepreneurs and managers. Is that a manager can just run, just run established company, established organization, and make it strive and make it stable and a success. But being an entrepreneur is about giving birth and sucking all those baby steps and baby stages who are very difficult. And I see a lot of people quitting at that stage or don't having the drive, the patience, the energy to do that. And it's actually a way of living. It's not just a profession or an occupation. And that's how I see things. And that's why I told you in the beginning. When I went into that room in South Africa, I found people who were like me in that sense of drive and energy and passion and motivation.
Sure. And I totally get where you're coming from. And you were in a room with the top 1% of tech startups. So
Yeah.
so you say I saw people like me because you were one, or you are one of the top 1%, because that's what the Southern African Startup Awards is identifying, is that top 1%. So as far as that's concerned, absolutely. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you're going to be successful in that business. I know businesses, I actually know an incubator model where they incubate a founder. And then often that founder's not the guy who's going to run the business. When they evolve from the incubator into the accelerator, in some of the businesses, an advert goes out for a CEO. So the founder isn't the CEO. And I'm saying for me, with one of my businesses, I identified my CEO, and when we get to a certain revenue, he takes over. And these are in this particular incubator, maybe it's right at the start. So they haven't even gone to market yet, but the founder is not the CEO because he's a tech guy or whatever. And for me, that shows an incredible maturity that you can see. I'm not the guy, like you're saying, maybe you're a manager. I'm
Mhm.
not the guy who's going to lead this business. And that doesn't make you not an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
If you think of, I don't know, Bill Gates, and who were his partners who started Microsoft? I don't know who they are, do you? But
No, yeah.
there's a
Mhm.
team of them, and he's the leader guy. So it doesn't always have to be only me. And it also doesn't mean that you're going to be successful in that particular venture.
Mhm.
The room you sat in, and like I acknowledge you, you were the top 1%.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You forget.
Uh, and what inspires you now, Stephen, in these days, in this changing world, in this new reality?
um, Innovation. So just the brilliance. So not innovation, as what's always, actually, to be honest, is what's always inspired me is people. Innovation is the people, these brilliant people. Damn, people are smart. And it's one of the things for me that I'm really appreciating getting older, is realizing how many smart people are out there. Like there
Mhm.
are people that are so much smarter than me. When I was in my 20s, I figured I was the smartest guy in the room always. And now, like I'm always grateful when I figure I'm the least smart person in the room. There are so many brilliant people out there just doing stuff. Yeah, that inspires me every single day. Every day. And you,
Good.
what's inspiring you, Carlos?
It's stepping out of boundaries. It's testing the new limits. So the world is changing, and we cannot hug, and we cannot travel, we cannot go out. but I can still reach you. Actually, I'm reaching more people now than I was reaching before. So it's finding new ways when we feel or see difficulties. The 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 changing my mindset from seeing problems to seeing opportunities, and this is something I'm fascinated by. People who think like that, who are wired to find opportunities and paths,
Yeah,
so and pathways forward instead of seeing problems and ending ending streets.
nice one.
Yeah. So, what are your next dreams to fulfill in your bucket list? What's still
to
missing,
hug
or what?
to hug someone.
Yeah,
To hug
that's a,
someone. So no, so to be honest, I'm launching a new platform that's come out of this new reality, and I don't want to go into too much detail because I just can't right now. I'd love to share that with you when we're ready, but it's very much around getting the top advisors to become accessible to businesses because often people don't know where to look, and now everybody's becoming an expert. Part of the digital age is going to be a lot of noise. So, how do you filter? And it's a platform that filters, and there's some quite unique features. And my software that's been used by the incubators in about a month, we're going to launch that out to be used by anybody that they can use. It'll be software as a service and cloud based, and people can use it, and it's really really cool product for small to medium, but mostly small service based businesses. So that's bucket list, and then traveling, just traveling. I love traveling. I love people. I'm just so fascinated by different cultures and, not staying in hotels, just hanging out with people in their daily lives. People are awesome. So people have done some terrible things around the world, but people are awesome.
and if you could travel for a safe imagine if COVID ends in the next day, tomorrow or next week, and you could travel to one location uh, at your shoes. Uh, what's
When
that dream location? First
when
trip,
when would I have to come back? How long have I got there?
1 week,
1 week. 1 week, I would
all
go
paid,
to
no
all
expenses.
paid. No,
Yeah.
well, 1 week all paid. I'd go to Japan. 1 week that pay for myself, I would go to Thailand, I think.
Have you ever
Yeah.
been in one of those places or not
No,
yet?
no, I haven't been to either. So in the East, I've only traveled to Hong Kong. Um, so yeah, for a week, one or the other.
Wow,
Longer, like go and cycle through Vietnam and Cambodia, and oh, brilliant. Yeah,
wow. So let's hope for better times, huh? And let's keep our bucket list waiting and bigger each time. I think it's a
thanks.
sign of hope.
So I appreciate that, and I'm accepting it. Are you okay if I change the wording a little bit?
Yes, of course.
So my offer back to you is let's hope for better me. Let's hope for better you right now, because that I can work on. I
Yes.
can't change COVID, but I
Mhm.
can definitely try to be a better Stephen in the world, to myself, to my loved ones. So that's what I wish you, a better you and a bigger bucket list.
Yes,
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. My friend, thank you very much once again for doing this with me, taking your time and sharing your experience and your knowledge. It's always an inspiration for me to meet you and to interact with you. And I'm really appreciated.
Thanks, Carlos. Well, I've had so much fun, and I appreciate the opportunity getting to connect with you and obviously your audience. It's been a really good hour for me. Thank you.
And when that platform is ready, please let me know, and we can hook up a new conversation because I think it's worth sharing. And when COVID is over, or when we can travel at ease and in a safe way, I would also like to have you in Mozambique, and let's work on a workshop format to talk
Perfect.
with people, small businesses, students, uh, and do this in a live way, and we can hug each other also.
Yeah, done, done. Absolutely. That'll be
That's a deal.
great.
So
It is.
thank you again, and have a good weekend, my friend.
And you, Carlos. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Stay safe. Bye
And
bye.
you.
So thank you everybody for one more episode of Freestyle Talks. My guest and my mentor Stephen Reed, as always, it was brilliant. So thank you very much for him again. Uh, I invite you to stay connected and subscribe and stay tuned to Freestyle Talks. We have more shows coming next week, one on Tuesday and one on Friday, and we'll keep busy as always. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye. Thank you.